lot to be discussed. Again, since I didn't catch it on camera, I'll say it again. Rest in peace to my nigga Billy Boy Tepo. Till we meet again, my dog. Rest in peace. But I want us to get into... Yeah, I'm well, Melvin. I want us to get into... I don't know if you guys saw DJ Maphorisa's tweet. But that's where the start of the show... Or that's where the show begins, rather. Let me say that. I don't know if you guys saw DJ Maphorisa's tweet. All right. But DJ Maphorisa's tweet, what's going on, Tabo, will essentially be the through line of my conversation tonight. And DJ Maphorisa's tweet will essentially bind everything together for tonight's conversation. For those who don't know what DJ Maphorisa said, right? DJ Maphorisa said, SA hip-hop needs to work together. This camp thing is not working. I will repeat. DJ Maphorisa says, SA hip-hop needs to work together. This camp thing isn't working. Right? Now, obviously, a lot of people have a lot of opinions in regards to what DJ Maphorisa said. Of course, a lot of piano bros will agree. A lot of people that are not in hip-hop culture will agree. Right? A lot of people that understand a specific section of hip-hop will agree. And the same with a lot of people that are outside of that are inside of hip-hop, right? Will disagree. A lot of them will disagree, right? A lot of people in hip-hop will disagree. A lot of people that are partaking in hip-hop actively will disagree. But essentially, DJ Maphorisa's sentiment is that hip-hop needs to stop being segmented and it needs to start working together. What do I say about this? Right? I'm not going to agree as yet. I will rather give my opinions and reasons as to why this won't work. Right? Hip-hop needs to work together. The clickiness doesn't work. Now, I understand where DJ Maphorisa comes from. DJ Maphorisa has lived through multiple eras. DJ Maphorisa comes from Afrofusion or Neo or Afro Soul with Mafigizolo and I believe native rhythms or whatever the case may be. Right? DJ Maphorisa comes in. DJ Maphorisa was in the background when hip hop was kind of doing its thing. Right? And then DJ Maphorisa comes into piano. Right? And piano, I want to argue that piano is one of the most successful genres in SA. Right? I want to argue that piano is probably more successful than Kwaito, more successful than maybe with the exception of things like Afro Soul and Gospel because they had a long time. But I think piano rose to its success in a very short space of time, and it can argue or it can battle for contention with things like gospel, with genres like gospel, genres like Afro Soul, genres like Kuderen in them, genres like Lekompo and all that. Right, or whatever old school variation of Lekompo there was. Right, that's what Maskandi and so on and so forth. Piano is essentially the fastest growing genre, the most financially lucrative genre, right? And I want to say the best genre in SA hip hop and the biggest genre. I mean, in SA, sorry, in the and the biggest genre, right? I wouldn't say long serving as yet, ITK. Now, with that being said, let's understand why there's a division in hip-hop. Let's start with the beginning of it all. Right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Hip-hop suffers a lot of empty stomach politics. Right? Why does hip-hop suffer a lot of empty stomach politics? The finances and the structure, right, that SA hip-hop has reached, right? Piano far surpasses it. Here's what you need to understand about piano. The labels trust the piano merchants to bring back the money. The reason why Maphorisa himself is in so many conversations about money and he shows you that he pays royalties of about 8 million, 12 million, whatever the case may be, is because the label trusts him to do that. Because he has a talent. I've said this before. He has a talent pipeline. He has created a talent pipeline through his record labels, through Kabza the Small, and so on and so forth. Right? Number one. Number two, right? The standard of piano is based by the crowd. You understand what I'm saying? If the piano ya kokota, that will be the trend, right? And it's very easy to duplicate the trend and just switch it. The label trusts that because it means that it's an efficient way to earn money. If Kabza comes out with a Pretty Girls Love Piano 1, right, and then MFR Soul comes out with a different variation of a similar but different variation of Pretty Girls Love Piano 1, and then Vigro Deep comes out with that, and such a person comes out with that, and such a the ROI for the label, right, comes out because now creativity, right, and essentially brand identity for the genre, or at the very least for the artist, is not the most important thing, and it doesn't take that long, right? When piano was at its peak, everybody was releasing at the same time, and niggas was releasing street records, right? It got legitimized now by Maphorisa essentially having or being the talent pipeline for Sony, and Sony giving them the budget. So Sony trusts Maphorisa with the budget. In hip hop, nobody was ever trusted with the budget. If you watch the El Tito and Tumi thingy or Stogie T interview, and him being thingy, the owner of Motif and running Motif and whatever the case may be, you can hear that there wasn't even enough budget to create a Tumi, then go back and do a Reason, then go back and do a Ricky Rick. Then there was so much that the ideas that were going through the pipeline had to be properly vetted out. And maybe sometimes those ideas were thrown out even though they were good, i.e. Bozonke, because there wasn't enough budget for the label to funnel into these ideas. Whereas with piano, there's always a budget. Why? Because the return of investment is based on the audience's buy-in when it comes to the music. And if you're gonna make South Africans dance, we are a dancing nation. We've been saying this multiple times. If you're gonna make South African dance, right, and your greatest mandate is making South Africans dance, right, then essentially the ROI is based on the audience's consumption of the music. And if the mandate is, I need these people to dance, then you have a very clear mandate. Mine is to make these people dance. Therefore, you can build a very simple and efficient talent pipeline because there is a blueprint. The lock drum, specific shakers, right, and a specific group, and then a specific lyrical content that will long last. Whereas with hip hop, there's so many things because you are working so many things. With hip hop, when you write the music for brands. You write the music for the club. You write the music for the introspective people that want to sit and listen to the music in the earphones. You write for so many things that the mandate is spread out, right? Because in hip hop, you need to be good enough to rap. Then you have to, after being good enough to rap, you have to be good enough to make a song. Then after being good enough to make a song, you have to make a song that's going to make people dance. Then after that, you have to be likable. Then after that, you have to be stylish. Then after there's so many. Then after that, there's this whole perception that you need to look successful because you need to live your raps for some reason. Or you need to be real because you have to self-actualize in the music for some reason. Whereas you have to be a good performer. Whereas in piano, your sole mandate is to make music that is going to make people dance. So, the empty stomach politics of hip hop is part of the division because we are fighting for crumbs because the label doesn't trust us, right, to bring back the money as efficiently as piano. With Piano Bros, there's so much pie, right, to split because essentially piano will forever be okay as long as FL Studio can be cracked, right, as long as packs can be moved in the street, as long as bros can find an i3 computer somewhere in the cut like Peroxide, as long as you have some house speakers. Cash Crusaders is selling monitor speakers for 1.8. Equipment to make piano is so inexpensive. Reason did say this, that piano is such an inexpensive thing to do because essentially the music itself is the mandate. Can this lock drum kokot? Even me, as a full hip hop guy, when that lock drum hits, it's a different type of time. Even me, when that lock drum hits, it's a different type of time because innately I'm African. And it triggers certain parts of me that make me want to gyrate, that make me want to make noises and make chants at the club. That's why I can be here. But if you find me somewhere at the back of Blanco and they're playing that piano, that coco thing like a mug, I'm going to be there doing the high yebo. You understand what I'm saying? Because the mandate is to make people dance. The mandate is not everything else. I look Verseless song like 5 times. The mandate is not everything else. The mandate is not the packaging and the branding. The mandate is the product. It is easy to make return on investment if you can productize something and then push it out without too much branding. A lot of things, let's speak from a business perspective, a lot of businesses tank, right, when the product requires a lot of marketing, when the product requires a lot of branding, because that on its own is more expensive than actually making the product. That's why a lot of people can come out with products, but they will never go to market, or they will never expand in market, because it takes more money to expand in the market than it is to go to market if going to market is just presenting your product. Piano is easy to go to market and expand based on the mandate of it. This is why 15 of them can work on the song together, because we do not require to know X35 Duppy 5. Because X35 Duppy 5 can come with 5 bangers and we'll never know him, but the song will get 16 million streams continuously. Whereas you gotta know World's Planet. You gotta know how he speaks, how he looks, how he dresses, what he thinks of women, right? Is he good enough to make you think? Is he good enough to make you feel? Is he good enough to make you shake your ass? All that. All of that costs money. Rap and hip hop is more of an expensive genre than piano is. Therefore, niggas will always play empty stomach politics, even in the media space. This is why there's a division in rap. This is one of the reasons, right? The first reason why niggas can't come together and work together. Because essentially what Maphorisa is saying right now is like, niggas need to work together because he stands the money, right? Or he stands by the money. And if Maphorisa can bring hip-hop bros together, the hip-hop won't be hip-hop for the hip-hop fans. The hip-hop will be good enough for the piano fans to listen to it. So it essentially deviates from actual hip-hop music. It deviates from hip-hop music. Because he has the budget, he's going to craft the hip-hop song to sound a specific way, of which it will deviate from hip-hop music. A lot of hip-hop artists won't be able to essentially stand by that, because essentially when you come back and then you go back to the hip-hop community, they're gonna go, hey dog, what are you doing? Yo, that shit whack. Which is essentially what Casper was saying. I don't make music for MC Mkhize, I make music for the fans. Where the fuck is Casper right now? Because essentially you are a hip-hop artist. Where are you right now? You disappeared into obscurity. You may have made your money from fill up whatever, or you may be in debt. Right? So you see that it is more expensive. Therefore, niggas will always play empty stomach politics. This is why it is essentially almost impractical for Maphorisa to say that. I get where he's coming from, and he's absolutely correct. However, one of the reasons is empty stomach politics. Right? The label does not trust the talent pipeline that hip-hop comes with, because it doesn't have enough return on investment. Whereas with piano, even if I leave now and go start a piano career, I'll make it now. In the next 6 months, I'll make it, versus being a rapper. Because the label does not trust the talent pipeline that comes with hip-hop, right? Because it's more expensive than the talent pipeline that comes with piano. Because piano's sole mandate is to make people dance, nothing more, nothing less. We don't need to know the people that are singing on the hooks. There's a lot of girls, a lot of guys that are singing on these hooks, and they're getting royalties every month. Every month they're eating from royalties. Every month they're getting their money, but we don't know them. We can pass them by the street. ROI. That's point number 1. Point number 2, timing. Right? Cruise ambassador or what's that brand? Yes. So okay, I'll come back to that one. Sandra. Point number 2. Right? Timing. SA hip hop needs to work together. Clickiness doesn't work. Timing. The timing of SA hip hop, in as far as the success, it's opposed to the brand of the country. Right? When or as opposed to the brand of the country was mistimed, right? Let me say it that way. right? Not to say it's opposed to the country's brand, because it's actually not opposed to the country's brand. The brand of SA hip hop and its success, right, can be aligned within the country's brand. However, the country's brand and the success of the country's brand, right, and the success of SA hip hop was mistimed or misaligned. I will explain to you what I mean. SA hip hop, the proliferation of SA hip hop was between the years of 2012, right, maybe 2013, right, the peak, the proliferation of it, not when it was still like when it was now taking off. It was between 2013, right, and then it kind of like went down 2013 to 2018. South Africa as a brand, not as a country, there's a fundamental difference, right? South Africa as a brand South Africa was not as popular on the global stage when hip hop was at its peak versus piano. So the return on investment for anybody that invests in South Africa right now, in as far as the music industry, it is much higher and will remain much higher than it was with hip hop, because hip hop, when it peaked, South Africa was still establishing itself as a brand globally. Now, what I mean by that is that J. Cole has been in South Africa twice. Maybe this is the third time he comes back. J. Cole, the first time he came, I think there was Big Brother South Africa, or the second time he came, there was Big Brother South Africa. Right? J. Cole is gonna fill up FNB Stadium. That's 70,000 human beings. Right? J. Cole was not going to be able to do it at that moment in time because South Africans and the brand of South Africa did not have that capacity. South Africa is also one of the most busiest concert nations in the world. South Africa also on a global political level, we are also having motion. South Africa is more recognizable now than it has ever been. Ever in its existence, right? With the exception of apartheid. Brand South Africa is more powerful now than it has ever been. SA hip hop, when it was at its peak, brand South Africa was still bubbling. This is why towards the end of SA hip hop's proliferation, right, or popularity, you started seeing the Bonangs, the AKAs, the Casper Vests, and all of them going that side. Dare I even say these guys opened the doors for everyone to come here and essentially exploit and or extrapolate value from piano, because they went that side first. And they said, hey, we kind of cool this here. You understand? Oh, this side, right? But because around those years, brand South Africa itself was not as popular as it is right now, SA hip hop will never, right, be as successful as piano, because the stars were aligned for piano to be what it is. Because when piano took off, brand South Africa took off. So we had a ready thing to export. Right, we had this ready product to Oh, South Africa's booming. Let's go see what's happening. Piano, right? Oh, piano and landscapes. Oh, piano and landscapes, and the missing middle is realizing that they can't buy homes and cars with their money, so they're gonna go to concerts. Fuck it, we'll live in flats every day. This is where we at. Oh shit, let's go, nigga. Boom. That's South Africa, right? Piano takes off around that. So essentially, right? Essentially, the timing of piano's success came at an opportune moment when brand South Africa was also taking off. As Verseless says, SA hip hop conquered Africa, piano conquered the world. As Sandra says, piano came with dance that everybody wanted to jump into, right? There are so many things that had to happen. So many things that had to happen. Verseless says, SA hip hop did damage to Africa through DSTV. Piano did damage globally due to social media. So you see, all of these things were opportune moments. So when Maphorisa goes back and says, SA hip hop needs to work together, clickiness doesn't work, it's almost disingenuous because it doesn't calculate these two factors that I've just mentioned. Number one, empty stomach politics. Based on what the label dictates with the budgets. Number two, right, timing. The misalignment of the popularity of the two genres. The one genre became popular as Africa was becoming, as South Africa was becoming popular across Africa. The other one became popular as brand South Africa was becoming popular globally. If you're going to compare the penetration and the conversion rate that Africa gives you versus the rest of the world will forever win. Therefore, piano will be a far better thingy. Or far more successful genre than SA hip hop will. So even if niggas had to come together, niggas don't have the same pie. It's not the same size pie, right? Niggas can come together, but you can't expect them to slice the same pie. They don't even have this. Niggas have to break bread. You niggas are breaking fucking Chateau Gâteau cakes, right? It's different. You niggas are the cheese boys. You niggas are the niggas that have the privilege that went to the private schools, while these niggas are niggas from the hood trying to get it together. If we had to make an example of it. Why? Because essentially so many things went right for you guys. It doesn't discount the fact that piano niggas got it out the mud. But we also need to stop being disingenuous as if these niggas didn't get their opportunity at an opportune time for the country and our global placement as a country. Right? And also, it was an opportune time for the labels, because the labels needed something that was very cheap so they can go make money with. And as mentioned before, piano music is a very cheap thing, right, to take out, because it doesn't require marketing budget, it doesn't require fashion budgets, makeup budgets, it doesn't require photo shoots, it doesn't require all of these ancillary things that comes, right, with essentially taking an artist to market. Piano is a song that can be put on data file host, and if the right person plays it on an IG live, it takes off. And essentially that's what happened. Very cheap.